We all share a universal need to progress and realize our potential. And we believe that science is the key to unlocking that potential. Science takes you from the playground to the pros. And in our industry, we call this sales acceleration. Sales acceleration is not just a piece of software, it's a system, it's a platform, so you can reach the right customers in the right way at the right time. We understand your need to progress, and we believe that science is the key to measure, anticipate, and accelerate.
Welcome to today's InsideSales.com webinar, 3 Keys to Unlocking the Sales Pipeline, featuring Amanda Holmes, CEO of Chet Holmes International, Jill Konrath, award-winning and best-selling author, and Tom Hopkins, America's #1 sales trainer. Today's webinar is broken into 3 15-minute parts, and we'll talk about the 3 keys to unlocking the sales pipeline. Amanda Holmes will kick it off, where she presents some of her content from her father, Chet Holmes, and they'll talk about how to take control of your conversations and get past gatekeepers. Then we'll roll straight into Jill Konrath, and she'll talk about how to build excitement and strengthen your business case to overcome the status quo. And last but not least, we'll have Tom Hopkins talk about how to use casual confidence in order to close more deals. And Tom is really an amazing trainer on closing. So with that, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. I know it is a sacrifice to take some time out of your busy day and do some training. This webinar will last 45 minutes, and it is set up in 3 15-minute parts from each of our speakers. And I think that this would be an excellent tool for some quick training tips. If you want to show any of these 15-minute clips to your teams, it would be a really good way to kick off a sales training meeting. And then also, take time to write down some action items and make sure that you implement these training processes into your procedures. And then last of all, I want to let everybody know that this is being recorded, and it will let you know how to get access to that recording at the end of the webinar. Well, we're ready if you're ready, so just let us know by typing yes into the Q&A box. And I will pass the time over to Amanda Holmes, and we'll roll right into Jill and Tom after them, and then we'll finish it up. Thanks.
Thank you for that introduction. In the next 14 minutes, you're going to learn 3 strategies on how to get past the gatekeeper, how to get that impossible appointment, because sometimes the only thing holding you back from the most influential people on the planet is a secretary. And these strategies have been proven by my father, who got 50 of the Fortune 500 as clients himself using these cold calling techniques. He also went into Hollywood and got 9 out of the 11 executives of every major studio in Hollywood on the phone in 1 week. And then sold the screenplay to Warner Brothers. So this is just such a small piece of what we teach overall, how to double sales. So at the end, we're going to provide you with the cold calling script that my father uses, as well as 3 more additional free training programs for you because you're here exclusively at Inside Sales. Without further ado, I give you our late great founder, my father, the ultimate sales machine, Chet Holmes.
So your tonality actually has 5 times more impact than the words that you use. And not consciously, but subconsciously, the prospect's subconscious picks up every subtle nuance of your tonality. Understand that to have authority, you end on the down note. So good evening, is this Jeffrey Hall? Good evening, is this Jeffrey Hall? You see the difference? When you go up like this at the end, you sound like a salesperson. And the one that kills me is this Jeffrey Hall? Yeah. How you doing today? I tell my salespeople, don't ask people how you doing today, because you sound like a salesperson. I never say to anybody, and when I was cold calling and trying to get, get Michael Eisner on the telephone, when he got on the phone, I go, how are you doing today? Yeah, Michael, hi, this is Chet Holmes. Right to business. I want him to feel the authority of that thing in the first 5 seconds. So all of you salespeople, will you please stop saying, how are you doing today? Just drop it from your vocabulary. That's as bad as, thank you for your business, or thank you for your time. Okay? Ending on the up note tells them you're a salesperson. Practice sounding like a newscaster. They are trained to have authority. Mr. Jones, Hugh Downs. It's all about the one with the most control. He lost control. He tried to have control, but he lost control very early on. So, first rule, you must always lead. And by the way, that's in selling. If you are following, you will never close. It's like I learned that in the furniture store days. If you're following that client around and they're leading and you're following them, you're never going to make a sale. So it was like a contest to see where you could go, dining room sets are right this way, and you take over. And now you're leading. And it was like this big contest because the trainer there told me, he said, you're following, you're never going to close. And he was right. So, hello, is Bill Smith there? Gatekeeper. Who's calling? This is Bart Jones. Gatekeeper. What is this call in reference to? I'm calling to talk about my product. I see. Who is in charge of this conversation? Gatekeeper. Totally the gatekeeper, right? Okay. So, hello, this is Bart Jones, is Bill Smith in. So what Adam did is he gave his name. So you already took away the first question that the gatekeeper can ask, understand? Who's calling? So she can't ask who's calling, I should have said. So, no, I'm sorry, he's not in. Who am I speaking to? His assistant? Did I ask her position? No, I asked her name. Who is this? So, what's your name? Shirley. Great, Shirley. When will Bill be in? He'll be back Tuesday of next week. So who is leading this conversation? Totally. Completely in charge. Okay? So now let's show you where, let's get a little tougher and a little tougher and a little tougher. I'll take you to the impossible gatekeeper and show you every single way. Hello, this is Bart Jones. Is Bill Smith in? May I ask what this call is in reference to? She just tried to take control. You must take it back. Who's this? His assistant. What's your next question? What's your name? Shirley. Before we go on, let's talk some concepts, okay? I'm just showing you, like, she tried to take control, you take it right back. You have to be in charge of every conversation or you will never get around that gatekeeper. Okay, never pitch the gatekeeper unless all else fails, which I will explain. But there's another book out, it's like, warm yourself up to the gatekeeper, win the gatekeeper over, send the gatekeeper flowers. I'm like, you know, I don't have 3 months to get Michael Eisner on the phone. I want to get him on the first try, right? So I'm showing you how you get these guys. If you can blow past the gatekeeper, that's the preferable modus operandi. Get around that gatekeeper in 1 or 2 phone calls or 1 phone call where you're just very clever. And I've done it thousands of times. And then if all else fails, I'll show you how you win over the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper will water down whatever you're saying, right? You do a masterful pitch to that gatekeeper, and when she gets to the boss, and you did 20 minutes, she will do 20 seconds. Am I right? Okay? Too easy for the boss to say no to the gatekeeper, and she sure isn't going to argue with him, right? The gatekeeper will pass you off to someone else. Has that ever happened to anybody here? You know? The gatekeeper may have the power to say no, but not the power to say yes. You always want to talk to the person who can say yes. That's for any kind of sales at any kind of time. So you want to complicate the issues. You want to be vague. You want to be authoritative the whole time. Never lie. Never lie. And that'll just come back to bite you. But just from an integrity standpoint, never lie. Doesn't mean you can't mislead a little here or there, no, but you never lie. What's this call in reference? So she says, what's this call in reference to? Tell him I'm with XYZ company, Shirley. One moment, please. Now, did I ask her? I told her. I just told her what to do. And if your authority is right, hi, this is Bart Johnson, and I'm calling for Bill Smith. What's this call in reference to? Just tell him I'm with Chet Holmes International. Okay, hold on one moment, please. Doesn't sound like I'm giving her any other option, does it? No. And it sounds like I expect that he will know who I am. Which is why, by the way, you always want to send a direct mail piece. So that you can confidently say, will he know what this is a reference to? Well, he should. Just tell him Chet Holmes is calling. Because your letter was signed Chet Holmes. Happens to be in the garbage right now, but, you know. You can dream, can't you? Okay, so let's make it more and more difficult. Mr. Jones? Yes. He wants to know what this call is in reference to. So I already gave her my name, I already gave her my company name, right? So now we go to the contest. Let's see how many times we can send the gatekeeper back to the boss without giving her any information whatsoever. Right? So I'm going to start over. Here's number one. Is Bart Jones in? This is Bill Smith. What's this in reference to? Just tell him Bill Smith. So now you don't even give your company name. Because you did send him that letter, and it did have your name on it, right? So he should remember you. Just tell him it's Bill Smith. Hold on one moment, please. She comes back. I'm sorry, he doesn't know your name. Can you tell me what this is about? Am I going to tell her? No. Heck no. And I take back control. Who's this? This is, I skipped that part, right? This is Shirley. Okay. Are you his regular assistant? Let's get more information, right? So now I'm going to start getting information. Because one time I got the highest ranking HR guy at Merrill Lynch on the telephone because I called him 3 different times and got 3 different names. So by the 3rd name, I called him one time. So I call in, hey, his name was Lee. Is Lee in? This is Chet Holmes. No, he's not. Who's this? Oh, this is Betty. Oh, Betty, you his regular assistant? No, I'm not. I said, who's his regular assistant? As if, I thought you were. You know, and it's all in the tonality. Hey, well, that would be Nancy. Oh, okay, great. So I call up and I go, hey, Nancy? No. Betty? No. Who's this? Well, this is Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca, I thought, oh, what are you? And he goes, I'm the relief receptionist. So another time I call and I go, Nancy? No. Betty? No. Rebecca? Yes. How you doing? It's Chet. Is Lee in? Hold on one moment, please. Lee, it's Chet. Who's Chet? I don't know. Sounds like he knows you. He knew who I was, and he knows who all the other people are here. It sounds like he knows you. And bam, this guy came to the phone. Then I dropped into, yeah, hey, Lee, Chet Holmes. Okay, so, but what happens is you're going to learn this training, and then you're going to get on the phone, and you're going to try to do some of this stuff, and then I'm going to come back and work with you a week later. After you watch this training, I'm going to come back with you a week later, and the conversation will be almost identical to what you just heard. And I'll say, and I've done this 100 times, right? I'll say, did you watch the video? Yeah. How many times? Because you need to see this thing, like, if you're cold calling and you're trying to get top executives on the phone, do 3 hours of it, watch the video at lunchtime. The edited version of this, by the way, would be like 35 minutes. No workshops or anything. Very quick. Watch it at lunch. Then watch it in the evening. If you do that 5 days in a row, by the end of the week, you will be the master of getting people on the telephone. Especially if you're doing it while you're trying it. You understand? Right? So here we go.
And there you have it. The 3 strategies to get past the gatekeeper. 1, tonality. 2, the one with the most control wins. And 3, never pitch the gatekeeper. So just for you, we're giving you even more bonuses, including the sales script that Chet used, as well as the sales script that all of our clients, thousands of clients around the world, use to get anyone on the phone. And that's the first of 3 videos that you're going to get. The second video is going to cover the 7-step sales process to close more deals and dominate your market. And make sure you watch out for number 7. And lastly, the one thing that superstar salespeople spend 40% of their time on. And the question is, are you doing it? So you can redeem that gift at howtodoublesales.com. Again, that's howtodoublesales.com. Just write in your name and email, and we'll give it to you, compliments of us. Thank you, Inside Sales. Thank you, Ken Krogh, for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. And go out there and make some deals.
Thanks for the nice introduction, and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to focus on how to outwit your biggest nemesis. By that, I mean the obstacle that stands in your way from achieving your goals on a regular basis. My hope is that you'll get some really good ideas that you can use, and certainly that you'll start thinking differently about this nemesis and what you can do to defeat this dastardly demon who prevents you from reaching those goals. That's exactly what your nemesis is. Your nemesis is like the Wicked Witch of the West who prevents Dorothy from getting home to Kansas. Your nemesis is also like the Joker from Batman, a serial killer, a serial sales killer, time and time again. And your nemesis is also like Lord Voldemort, Harry Potter's archenemy, also known as He Who Shall Not Be Named. And the reason I say that is because when I ask salespeople, who is your biggest nemesis, they don't talk about what I'm going to talk about today. For the most part, they'll tell me who their biggest competitors are. But that's not who your biggest nemesis is. Before I name that biggest nemesis, I'm going to show you a statistic, though. It's revealing. From Sales Benchmark Index recently came out, and they say, based on their research of tons of sales deals, that 60% of all forecast deals are lost to no decision. For God's sakes, you're losing more to no decision than all of your competitors combined. You know, we may think, well, that's just the way it is, but the truth of the matter is 60% is an average. Some people are closing 60% of their deals. I mean, even just think if you could bump up, you know, your close rate a little bit more and close a little bit more of these forecasted deals, the impact it could have on your compensation and your overall success. And it can be done if you get real serious and understand that your biggest competitor, your biggest nemesis is the status quo. By far and away, your customers, your prospects are defaulting to the status quo instead of going ahead with you or your competitors. They are sitting put. 60% of them, people who said that they are good prospects, people you said were going to close, they're sitting with the status quo. They're choosing not to change. That's not good. And it's also a tremendous opportunity for those of us who say, I want to change that dynamic. I hate losing to the status quo. I hate spending all this time with the prospect, working with them, building a relationship, you know, and demoing them and writing proposals and doing all sorts of discovery and then having nothing happen. It's a colossal waste of time. I mean, you can go prospecting again, but wouldn't you rather figure out how to take this time investment and maximize it so these people decide to do business with you? Your status quo is your nemesis. You got to learn to fight this thing differently. You can't just accept it as normal. It's not normal to lose to the status quo. Maybe it's normal for normal people, but if you want to be really good at this, it isn't normal. So let's take a look at some of the issues that you're facing. Because if you know what the issues are, then you can find out what the solutions are. Now, the first big issue that I see salespeople dealing with all the time relates to having a weak business case. You know, kind of like that 90-pound weakling. You know, if you don't have a good reason for your prospects to make the change, they're not going to do it. I mean, making a change is hard. It takes up a whole lot of time. And if you're not the only decision maker, you have to justify this decision, and you don't have good metrics on why somebody should change, it's really hard to get the ball rolling in an organization. And just because somebody likes it is not enough today in many organizations to get the change to happen. There's got to be a valid business reason. There's got to be metrics that are related to efficiencies, productivities, increased revenue, decrease cost. I mean, these are the things that your clients want to hear. And so you need to take a look at what you have and say, what is it that we really bring to the table? And when I talk to sales organizations, I have to tell you very honestly that the root cause of this problem I see all the time is that the salespeople don't know enough about the current status quo. What are the prospects doing today without their product and service? And you know, this is the baseline that you actually need in order to put together the business case. It's what you need to understand where the issues and the challenges are. I mean, if you don't know where they might be struggling, if you don't know where the bottlenecks are, if you don't know the inefficiencies, if you don't know the true cost of how they're operating, then honestly, there's no way that you could know anything different. So it's crucial that we really dig in and understand our prospects at a whole different level, a really deep level. Now, some of you come from companies that have some really good information on this, and some of you come from companies that there's no information, and some of you just work for yourself and have to figure this information out yourself. So let me give you a few tips that I think are really helpful to you, that'll help you understand how to develop a better business case. It all really, really, truly starts with researching. The more time you can spend in research and understanding the status quo, the better off you'll be. And a lot of people say, well, what kind of research should we be doing? And the first thing I'd say is go talk to your existing customers. Your existing customer base, especially those who have bought your product or service, started working with you in the past 6 months, they really have some good information for you. They can actually tell you what it was like before, and they can compare life before to life now, which really means they can document a lot of the statistics. They can give you some metrics. They can give you some round numbers, but you have something to work with when you talk to your customers. The other thing you can do is you can actually go talk to your colleagues, if you have them, and find out what they know. What are their benefits that their customers are getting? What problems are their customers having that were solved by the status quo? That's what you want to find out. And how can you explode that into something bigger so that it's more important and your prospects realize that they will get value? You need to explode what you learn into an annual cost or a 3-year cost so the problem gets big enough to be resolved. But that's really where you need to start. You need to invest time researching. That's the first thing that you really do. Know that status quo so you can understand what the business case is. Now, another big issue that people are facing is when their decisions are simply too complex. And this is really a showstopper because it's hard for people to make a change. And nowadays, like average sale, I think, has 5 to 7 decision makers. I mean, can you imagine shepherding all those cats around trying to get people to agree? That's why it's so hard. It's complex. They've got systems that are already built around working with the status quo. It's the way we know, and the beast that we know is better than the one that we don't know. So complexity, when people are overwhelmed, and by the way, your decision is not the only thing on their plate. When they're overwhelmed, they oftentimes will default to doing nothing just because it's easier. It's simpler. They just don't have the mental bandwidth in order to continue and move the situation forward. Now, there are some answers to that really do make a difference, and you have to get inside it. But the true answer that's underneath it all is that you honestly need to be a sales guide, a leader of the sales process. And it's not a typical role that we in sales possess. It's kind of like being more of a project manager. But it's sitting down with your prospects, people who are interested in what you're doing. I mean, these are forecasted prospects, for God's sake. They're not new customers that you're just meeting, but it's sitting down with them and rolling out what has to come next and showing them that here's where we start and here's what we do next, and then we need to involve and engage these people in our organization, and we have to bring them in, and when we do that, then we do this, and we have to establish criteria and take a look at the ROI, but it's working with them and moving them along in the process. You've been through it 100 times. They haven't, and you can really help them out by being a project manager of the sales process. This is not what we know, but honestly, it makes a huge difference today. Now, the other thing that's interesting too is that another reason that sales don't progress is because of lack of excitement. And I'm not talking about, you getting up and becoming a real cheerleader for your product and, doing a lot of rah, 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 because that's like really stupid. What we want, though, for you to do is learn how to create excitement with your prospects. And that comes by creating a vision of the future, like a vision of what's possible. And our prospects are so stuck sometimes in the mundane. The day-to-day job, they don't have a chance to look at what's out there. They don't talk to anybody else. And so if you can come in and show them what's possible and how they might achieve this vision of the future that they can only dream about right now, you have a really good chance of getting momentum going in the organization. This is another statistic I think you really do need to pay attention to. Forrester research shows the first viable vendor to reach a decision maker and set the buying vision has a 74% average close rate. So beforehand, I just told you that the average salesperson is losing 60% of all forecasted deals. This is a total flip-flop. I mean, it's even better. 74% average close rate. This means that you need to get in and paint a picture of what's possible and how life can be that much better. You have to be a viable vendor, meaning you can do it, but if you get in there, you reach the decision maker, imagine having a 74% close rate. But that's what happens when you can set the vision for the future. So those are just 3 things that you can do right out the bat to change the dynamic and close more business. There's a whole lot more. You know, I mean, these are other obstacles that you run into, low priority, too risky, lack of buy-in, and you know, all these things are true. These are obstacles to you're achieving your goals. These are part of the nemesis of the status quo, and you have to address them. But the truth is, you don't have to address everyone all at the same time. What you need to do is tackle one of these. I mean, take a look at any one of these and say, what is the issue that I'm facing? You know, do they not think it's a good enough business case to move ahead, or is it just too complex? I mean, of these things, there's got to be something I can focus in on and tackle right now, because that is what makes a difference. You got to pick something and get better at it. Get better at one thing first. That's all it is. And I want to warn you of one other thing. In sales, we most of us suffer from the shiny object syndrome, and that's really normal. That is what neuroscience shows, that our brain is honestly programmed that way, that we need to see new things happening. It's actually evolutionary, and it protected us in the old days when the tiger emerged on the scene and we had to quick get out of there. But we do tend to divert our energies, and so rather than accepting that this huge loss rate is normal, we really should be digging in and not going after the new prospects. I mean, that's what we mostly do. The new prospect is like, oh, well, that didn't work. I got to go find somebody new. But then we have to start the whole thing over again. We have to rebuild a relationship. We have to prove business value. We have to spend all this time, hopefully, getting them to the point where they'll say yes, where if we possibly had invested more time learning about the status quo, understanding how to build a better case, learning how to be a guide, we would close more deals with less effort. I mean, guys, get the picture? Your biggest nemesis is the sitting duck, the status quo. We got to focus on how to get it out of there. And we can't just keep running to new prospects. That's a waste of our time. We want to focus in and do what's right. We want to beat that status quo. So here's your challenge. Think about it. How can you release the grip of the status quo? Because your status quo has your prospect in a huge grip. There are a lot of ways. What are you going to pick? Seriously, what are you going to pick? What's the one thing you can do different? What do you want to learn more about so you can be more successful? That is your challenge, the status quo, releasing its grip. It's your biggest nemesis. You want to get rid of it. You want it to be over and done with. It's up to you. You all have the capability to do it. I hope you'll accept this challenge. And if you'd like some more ideas, go to my website. I got tons of good information. It's all free there, but do check it out. You find a lot of good ideas on how to outwit your nemesis, that status quo. I'm taking you back to your challenge one last time. Think about it. What are you going to do differently? The status quo, your nemesis. And you know what? You can win.
Hello, I'm Tom Hopkins. Welcome to my home here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to share some ideas with you on my very favorite subject. In fact, people often ask me as I travel teaching and training and motivating people in the field of sales, Tom, what makes your company different than all the other companies that do sales training, motivation, and so forth? And I would have to say that the real difference is we teach the true nitty-gritty of the most important art form, in my opinion, in selling, which is the art of closing the sale. And that's what I want to cover with you today. Now, you might already know plenty of techniques for prospecting, handling objections, but if you can't close, you're like a football team that can't sustain a drive long enough to score. And if you don't love the closing process now, please start falling in love with it, because this is where the real money is. Now let's start off by talking about what I call the ABCs of closing. And ABC stands for always be closing. In fact, many people, I think, have a misunderstanding. They feel that the closing of the sale starts at the end of whatever the process would be, presenting, giving information, demonstration. And I totally believe that in essence, the closing of the sale begins the moment you meet someone. The moment that you start verbally speaking and talking, the things you do visually. And please realize this is so important, that you in the beginning are the product. Meaning they must accept you. And if you were to stop me right now on an elevator and you said, Tom, I've been reading your books, I recognize you from your DVDs, and you said to me, Tom, hey, I've got you alone in an elevator. What is the real secret of being great at closing lots of sales? I would say quit thinking about selling and work harder on yourself than you do on your job to become a person that they like and trust and want to listen to you. See, that is the beginning of it. They have to like you. They have to trust you. And most people in the world start off with a lack of trust of a salesperson. So we must do things, say things that create the like, the trust, and then they have to move to want to hear more. See, in other words, most people have to listen to you if you go into their home, you go into their office, you got an appointment, got the decision maker in front of you. Yes, they have to listen to you. But when you're really good at this art form, it moves from a have to listen to want to listen. To where, in other words, you're coming across as an educator, not only educating but motivating. You're having fun with it. You see, I think all these things make up what you need to do to be great at closing. So I'm going to give you, first of all, 7 little steps that we start with. And the very first is always have your closing materials ready. Meaning, many people feel that they have to literally have the presentation at a desk or an office. In my career, I have made sales out. I was in Hawaii. I was laying on the beach for a week. And I met this couple, and they became friends of my wife and I. And sure enough, I ended up finding an investment property for them, and it would have never happened had I not had my closing materials ready, where I could, in essence, show them how they could invest in the property. We had such a nice relationship, and I closed a transaction on the beach in Hawaii, but I had my closing materials ready. Also, make sure that any forms that you do use are sharp and clean, and I call this working clean. It's the second thing you must do. If you pull out a form that's dog-eared, has food on it, believe me, they will feel like you must not be doing real well. Number 3, get your closing materials out early. Now, I've had a philosophy all my life that one of the things that scares people is called a jerky transition. And that means you do a physical or a verbal move that's not smooth. Now, opening up a briefcase scares people, and I know most of you have all of your closing materials in some type of case. Get the materials out early. Also, number 4, find your figures and your math easily by using a calculator. People believe what's in a calculator. Most of you, based on some of the closes I'll be teaching you, should maybe consider getting the big numbers calculator. that prints out a beautiful digital about that big so the people across the desk or table can easily see it. Now, number 5, close with casual confidence. You cannot be different when you start to close the sale. It's got to be flowing. Then, of course, number 6, use the planned pause. You will have people mentally drift away from you at the presentation table. They may mentally go out into the other room for something that they're thinking about. Whenever you feel them mentally leaving you, that's what I want you to do. Do a nice planned pause. And they will come right back in to your presentation. Then you also, step number 7, want to use test or trial closes. Now, a test or trial close is a little question you ask that's not blatant, but tests how they feel about going further. I can't tell you the number of times that I've just smiled after I've given them the facts, the figures, and said, how are you feeling about all this so far? See, I didn't ask you to purchase. I want to know how you feel about what we're discussing. And that will open them up. Well, we feel pretty good about it. We still have some questions. Or you may want to use what we call an alternate advance test close. I've got a couple here that I just love. Listen to this one. Helen, would you prefer to have your electronic bank transfers made on the 10th or the 15th? See, that's an alternate. She can't say yes or no. Pick 10, pick 15. Either one, I'm closing transaction. Or you might even try this. Should we set a delivery date on the 1st or the 15th? They can't say yes or no. Pick one of the alternates, 1st or 15th. Or you might try this test close. We call this the porcupine test close. What that basically means is when they ask this type of question, pretend they threw a porcupine. Ooh, an awful ugly porcupine. I'm here in the desert. We have lots of them. You wouldn't want a porcupine in your lap, but if they throw you this question, throw it back. They might say, Tom, does this system come with the speakers pictured on the brochure? Well, it's tempting to give them a yes, but you didn't close. Answer it with the question. Are the speakers pictured the ones you'd like to have? When they say yes, they in essence bought the speakers, but the entire system must come with them. Isn't that fun? Or you might try test close number 3, which we call this the erroneous conclusion test close. It's really a built-in error, a mistake you say, but when they correct you, in essence, they've bought. For example, you might say, now, you said your mother's coming on the 15th, right? And of course they say, oh, no, Tom, it's on the 10th. Oh, thank you. Let me make a note of that. Now that is called the erroneous conclusion, a built-in mistake. When they correct you, hot dog, they've bought. Here's test close number 4. As I mentioned to you earlier, I want you to hear it again. Does all this make sense, and how are you feeling about it? Or as simple as how do you feel about all this so far? Oh, I love that little question. I've asked it thousands and thousands of times during my 8 years of helping people say yes to investing in a home, which was the background I had. Now, we start off in what we call power closing with what we call the basic oral close. And of course, it can be as simple as, would you like to take care of this with a check or with a credit card? That is an oral close. They make a decision and you've closed. Or, by the way, John, what purchase order number would be assigned to this requisition? Now they give you the purchase order number, you make a note of it and close the transaction. Or many of you will be using what we call a basic written close, also known as 7 words. Let me make a note of that. And this is something that you would say when they would respond favorably to any of your final or test closing questions. They, of course, I used to just love it. when suddenly the buyer would say, well, listen, will they leave that swing set? Well, see, right away I know they wouldn't ask that in a property or a home they disliked. And I'd smile and just say, would the swing set be something the children would enjoy? When they say, yes, they should leave that, they have just purchased a swing set. So try these wonderful little techniques. I love the sharp angle close. This carries the porcupine technique to a higher level of effectiveness. In other words, watch how this works. They say to you, hey Tom, if we decide to go with your product, we'd like to take delivery on June 13th. Could you handle that? Don't say yes or no. Just warmly say, if I can guarantee delivery by the 13th, are you ready to proceed? When they say yes, you have closed the transaction. Oh, closing the sale is such a fun art form. And you know, we have an approximate 11 million salespeople in the United States. Only a handful know what to say when they want to think it over. Oh, master this little presentation. When they say they want to think it over, just learn these words. Smile and say, oh, that's fine, Bob. Obviously, you wouldn't take your time thinking this over unless you were seriously interested, would you? I mean, I'm sure you're not telling me that to get rid of me. So may I assume you'll give it very careful consideration? Oh, yes, we will, Tom. Well, just to clarify my thinking, what phase of this opportunity is it that you'd like to think over? Is it the quality of the service I'll render? No, we're impressed with you, Tom. Is it something I might have forgotten to cover? No, I think that's been very thorough. Hey, level with me. Could your hesitation be the money? Most of the time it is the money. I'm hoping right now they'll just say, Tom, I feel it might cost too much. So I will then say, you know, John, today most things do. Can you tell me about how much, too much, you feel it is? Now what they must do is elaborate on how much too much it is. And by the way, if people negotiate on the money, there is sincere interest. They would not do that unless there was interest. Many people are afraid to hear them say it's more than they want to spend, it costs too much. A pro isn't. A pro is sitting there going, come on, if it's too much, let's get the money on the table, let's negotiate. People want a bargain today. And you have to make them, in a way, believe they're getting a really good opportunity. And also, when you're closing the sale and you're asking all the right questions, make sure that they're questions, number one, they can answer, but also number two, that all the answers confirm the fact they're going ahead. I hope you review this quick little session. I hope you watch it many times. And more than you know, I hope one or two ideas helps you make a greater income. And if that happens, then I've done the right thing today, haven't I?
I want to thank Amanda, Jill, and Tom for their amazing content today. I want to let you know that we have recorded today's webinar and that we will email you a link to access today's webinar in an email tomorrow. You can also use the same link you used today to enter the webcast up to 30 minutes after the event ends. Feel free to share this with colleagues or with your sales teams for training purposes. You will have access to it for up to 30 days. Also, we have some resources available for download that you can see in the right side of your webinar console. Today we talked quite a bit about sales strategy, and at InsideSales.com we provide the technology that you need to fulfill that strategy to help you sell faster, sell smarter, and sell more. With that, we'll end today's webinar. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us, and happy selling.